With us to talk about what we heard today, both this afternoon and tonight, is Stephanie Chouinard and Zain Velji. Stephanie is an assistant professor of political science at the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. She is in Toronto. And in Calgary, Zain is a campaign strategist. He's also a partner at Northweather, a marketing agency. All right, Stephanie, let me begin with you. I was, even up to the last minute, I was debating whether to start with the throne speech or whether to start with the rare address we saw tonight. So I think I'm going to go for it with the address we saw tonight. What did you think of that, and what message did you take from it?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't sure about the purpose of this address tonight, and after hearing it, I'm still not sure it was necessary. The first half of Prime Minister Trudeau's speech could have very well been said during one of those daily COVID addresses. Reminders about wash your hands, please don't party, we're all in this together, etc. And then the second part was essentially a condensate from what we had heard in the speech from the throne. So essentially repeating in layman's terms those 17 pages from the speech from the throne this afternoon. So it seemed to me like the Prime Minister was really trying to steal the spotlight from the Governor General rather than adding on to the conversation that had been happening since this afternoon.
Zain, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I thought the entire speech was Trudeau just pulling out a highlighter and then just highlighting parts of what was said in the afternoon, right? It's like, having a matinee with the Governor General with the 17 pages that Stephanie mentioned, and then Trudeau saying, by the way, if you missed it, primetime audience, here's what's going on, here's what happened earlier in the day. I think it was a smart political strategy. I think he might pay a bit of a price with perhaps the networks being like, there was nothing novel about that. I don't know why you did it. But he got the final word, and he got to talk about some of his chief things, as we talked about yesterday, that he has incubated himself as perhaps legacy projects, but also, the healer in chief. He wanted that message to come from him. The messenger is the message. And that is probably the rationale that the PMO had to ask for that airtime across the country.
But what did we learn from that about, other than we're in a second wave, which many of our infectious disease specialists have been telling us for a little while anyway? What was it's like you might not have your Thanksgiving. And Stephanie, I don't even know what that means. Do you know what that means?
I think the broad message in that part of Prime Minister Trudeau's speech was we really need to start acting quickly and take this seriously because the second wave is spiking very quickly and it will get worse than the first wave if we don't act right now. So he's trying to give an incentive to Canadians to really take this seriously now so it will get better, faster, and essentially things may get back to normal if we all act according to public health measures. So I think that was the takeaway there.
Zain, I saw
you. I think Stephanie did a great summary. It was almost like, here's what I'm going to do for you. Our government is going to backstop you with debt because we can, because interest rates are low. We're going to extend these benefits, but here's what you got to do for me if we want to really get out of this. So it was almost like a let me level with you Canada sort of speech. Here's what we're going to do, but the compromise only works if you come meet me halfway with your actions, your behaviors, and your personal responsibility going forward. So that's how I would kind of summarize what we kind of learned from that speech, was the Prime Minister really calling out his Canadians to meet him halfway, so to speak.
Well, it's a big country and there are different circumstances across the country. That's got to be followed up, I would think, perhaps tomorrow with somebody like Theresa Tam or somebody saying, okay, you heard from the Prime Minister last night, here's how you do it. Because people need direction on how to do it, do they not?
Yes. At the end of the day, though, it's just doubling down on the efforts, right? This is what's interesting about the pandemic in many ways from like a behavioral economic standpoint, is that individuals know what they need to do, wash their hands, wear a mask, be 6 feet apart. But at some point, we just got bored of it. At some point, we just felt like, we could take our foot off the gas. So, there isn't going to be a new strategy tomorrow as to what we do. It's just going to be, a message that says it is so important to do the things you already are doing. And if you're a little bit lax right now, put your foot back on the pedal, because this is what ends up happening to our curve if you don't.
All right, let's talk about the speech from the throne. Stephanie, what did you think?
I saw a lot of provincial jurisdictions being mentioned in that speech from the throne, and it's no surprise that the first people to react to it were Premier Legault and Yves-François Blanchet from the Bloc Québécois. A lot of the legacy measures, like Zane calls them, are essentially right in the middle of provincial jurisdiction. If we're talking about seeing new standards for long-term care homes, if we're talking about childcare, if we're talking about formation and training, those are all falling within provincial jurisdiction. And sure, the speech from the throne said in collaboration with provinces, but the provinces had made clear some of their demands last Friday prior to the speech from the throne. And a lot of the provincial premiers are probably very disappointed right now that the speech did not contain things like a promise to have bigger health transfers over time, for example. And that money comes with no strings attached, as opposed to these collaborative measures that the Prime Minister hinted at in the speech from the throne today. So I think there will be a lot of intergovernmental relation troubles following the speech from the throne.
Zane, what stood out for you?
Yeah, I'm eating a bit of crow, Carol, because yesterday on the program I said this speech was going to lean more to the pragmatic side rather than the ambitious. And boy, was I wrong. This was expansive, right? Mm-hmm. I'd love to see what the first drafts of this thing were if this was a pared down version, because this includes long-term care, childcare, pharmacare, a commitment to end chronic homelessness in Canada. So when we talked about in the early days of prorogation that Justin Trudeau had an ambition to remake Canada, we saw that in this speech. But what we also saw is the pragmatic bucket of some of the extensions on the CEWS, figuring out the jobs plan going forward, economic stimulus. But what became abundantly clear to me, Carol, is that the political strategy for Justin Trudeau is to move to the left. We knew that. We knew they were telegraphing that. And now they've almost boxed the NDP in almost to irrelevance by taking some of their chief programs that they've been advocating for, while simultaneously having Jagmeet Singh waffling on whether he's going to support this speech or not. And it became abundantly clear that for the Liberals, if they lean further left, they can really take some of the core philosophies of the NDP and perhaps by extension their voters, if there were ever to be an election, say in the spring sometime, with we know some of the big pragmatic approaches that would probably lean a little bit more center right. So it was both an activist and expansive, but also politically clear what the direction the Liberals were heading in.
And did you get a sense tonight, Zane, and then I'll come to you on this, Stephanie, did you get a sense tonight, Zane, that Jagmeet Singh indicated which way he's going to go in terms of not supporting this speech from the throne?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's backed into a corner right now, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of what he wants from big ticket policy items are in this. So if he backs away and calls an election, there's no guarantee that these things stay. There's no guarantee that he remains the balance of power and has the leverage that he does. So while he today stands on a podium and answers the same way 15 times, which is I need policy within a throne speech, which, by the way, actual legislation in a throne speech is not a thing. You don't get to ask for that. He knows he's backed into a corner. So at the end of the day, I suspect he will support this thing. He will come out kicking and screaming as it relates to the budget and wanting to see the paid sick leave, for example, that he's been asking for. But he has no choice here because he can't afford an election and he can't afford to lose the leverage and the policy that they've been able to insert within this throne speech. I'm surprised he wasn't taking credit. I was really surprised today that he wasn't pointing to the fact that, you see pharmacare, you see childcare, you see ending homelessness. That's us. I was so surprised that was not his tack today.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there for time, but I know you'll be back. You've been an excellent panel both these last nights. Stephanie Chouinard, Assistant Professor at the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. Zane Velji, Campaign Strategist and Partner at North Weather in Calgary.